And I'm just talking about one party here. So just a short time ago, Donald Trump slamming Speaker Paul Ryan after the Speaker all but abandoned the Republican nominee. Trump tweeting, quote, Paul Ryan should spend more time on balancing the budget, jobs, and illegal immigration and not waste his time on fighting Republican nominee. But moments ago, political reporting at the RNC chair, Reince Priebus, says the party remains firmly behind Donald Trump. So will this help to bring some order to the GOP? Here to help me break it down, Jay Chabria, former advisor to Governor John Kasich, and Republican strategist Ford O'Connell. Jay, let me start with you. I think John Kasich reiterated his anti-Trump stance over the weekend, but he was joined with a whole bunch of other Republicans who some hard grassroots followers of the party are calling rhinos. They're saying that they're traitors, that they've abandoned the party at the very moment Donald Trump needed them and the voters wanted them.
Well, I think what you're seeing is a lot of the party leaders are recognizing that their nominee is not really there for the Republican brand. He's there to get elected himself, or I don't even know what his strategy is, quite honestly, because he shrinks his base all the time. They've got to worry about their own party. They've got to worry about their races, their House races, their Senate races.
Let me just jump in for 1 second because you're confusing me. You're saying Donald Trump doesn't represent the party?
It doesn't seem like, look, the things that he stands for aren't necessarily what Republicans have stood for the last 20, 30 years. And that has been a very uncomfortable position for a lot of Republican leaders. And right now what they're seeing is a guy out there that is, he's kind of a recluse in terms of what he says. He attacks his own party. And Paul Ryan has, in my opinion, is doing the right thing by trying to focus on his races, because that's his job to preserve his majority.
Ford, isn't it, Ford, I know you want to jump in, but I do think it's sort of rich that the grassroots Republican voters have sent a message to the establishment, and yet the establishment is still saying, no, we want to be in charge despite what you've told us you want.
Well, I don't think
I absolutely agree with you. I think abandoning Donald Trump in such a public way as Paul Ryan has done is downright stupid, because in this partisan era of politics, the split ticket voting is a myth beyond 10% statewide. He is the standard bearer. It's his party. He's generating all the enthusiasm. And if you pull away from him, you could depress the GOP base, which could cause even more massive losses. It's not like rank and file Republican voters are saying, gee, let's save Congress like it's the Alamo. This is Donald Trump's party, and we should be backing him wholeheartedly.
Let me ask you this, because a lot of them are pointing, a lot of the establishment are saying, hey, you look very closely at the polls. There's certain states, particularly swing states, where the incumbents are doing much better than Donald Trump, whether it's a Kelly Ayotte or Rob Portman, suggesting that maybe he's an anchor to them on a local level, and that's what you should be focused on. That's what Paul Ryan's focused on.
In some isolated cases, that may work, like Rob Portman, Marco Rubio, and Kelly Ayotte, but you have to understand, the better that Trump does in your state, the better chance that those folks have to win, because, again, voting is still a top-down procedure, and that's why it's in their best interest for Donald Trump to do as best as possible in their state.
You know, Jay, this is what, again, and Ford just hit on it, the enthusiasm, the new voters, the crowds. I mean, really, does the Republican Party want to give that up? And what do they get out of it?
No, of course not. They don't want to give that up. Mitt Romney had great crowds, too, but he ended up losing.
He didn't have anything like Donald Trump. Come on.
Well, let's look at Rob Portman for a second, since we talked about that. Rob Portman has done a fantastic job of being able to separate the Republican brand and Rob Portman's brand from the top of the ticket. That's what he's done here. He's localized the race. He's talked about the things that they care about at a local level. And that's what I would recommend to any House candidate or any Senate candidate going forward.
Yeah,
because right now,
Jay, not everyone's Rob Portman. Rob Portman is a brand in and of himself, okay? Richard Burr, North Carolina, cannot do that.
Rob Portman's name ID before this race started was lower than his opponent's. That is not necessarily accurate. He did a fantastic job of doing it because he ran a good campaign, and he had ran.
And Ted Strickland was also a very bad candidate as well. Okay, so there's a lot going on there. You cannot replicate a Rob Portman nationwide, is what I'm trying to tell you. And you know this as well as I do, Jay. The point is, the better Trump does, the better off House and Senate candidates are going to be across the country, and that's why abandoning him with 28 days to go is a very bad idea.
Ford, but the reality here, too, is Donald Trump's floor is now close to his ceiling, and that's not a recipe for success for the Republicans nationwide.
Jay, let me ask, what happens, what's the postmortem on this if Donald Trump loses the general election and all of these folks who really, I mean, I'm watching people who Donald Trump wasn't the first, second, or third choice, but they've embraced him like they've never embraced a political candidate before. What happens to your party if this is the scenario?
And that's the big question. That's what we all have to come together and try to figure out where we're going to come out of, because we're going to have we are facing a place where we're going to have a tsunami of votes against us, and we're all going to have to figure out together how we're going to move forward as a party. And that's the challenge all of us have.
All right, guys.
It's got to be some electoral. It's not just about electoral success. It's about what's right too, and going back to our Republican principles.
All right, guys, let's leave it right there. Thank you both very much.
Thanks for having us.
Ambassador
Thank you,
James Woolsey is Donald Trump's campaign foreign policy advisor and also former director of the CIA, and he joins us now. Ambassador, there was a big moment early in the debate yesterday when I guess the moderators tried to pin Mike Pence against Donald Trump on their approach to the Middle East, more specifically Syria. You're the Middle East advisor. Where did the confusion come in, and what exactly is now the campaign's plan?